Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster here on this Sunday, April 16th, 2023. It's about 10:43 a.m. here along the west coast in the state of California. 4.8, the latest earthquake here, just off the coast of Japan. They're into the southern end of the Japan Trench, it looks like. We are seeing a little bit of uptick in movement across this entire area here overnight and yesterday. Let's go ahead and see what we have out here across the model here. The flat scale model Earth. Quite a bit of movement here along the western Pacific, but first we're going to start over here into the Caribbean plate, eastern side here along this subduction zone around the St. John's area. Noticing a little bit of movement kicking off here early this morning. A couple fives kicking off, some deeper movement, and also a little bit of shallower earthquake activity down here south of St. John's into the Dominica area. This zone can see some rather large earthquakes. I think we've already seen somewhat of a large one earlier this year, back in January. This is the historical earthquake catalog book here showing earthquake activity 6.0 and above, well, since records have been kept according to the USGS. So last earthquake within this area was a 6.1 back in January, 162 kilometers deep, and some other areas around this region can see some large earthquakes. Back in 1843, just outside of St. John's, they had an 8.5, very strong quake in that area. It's just southeast of the St. John's region. This activity we're seeing today is north and south of that area, but just goes to show you that this area can you definitely see quite a bit of larger scale movement here. I'm trying to see when the last somewhat larger one was. Looks like a 7.4 back in 2007, 7.5 1974. Looks like sevens are fairly common out here. 8-pointers, not so much, but it looks like they can happen with enough strain built up. And that was, again, back in 1843. Just outside the St. John's region, I'm sure a very damaging earthquake there at the time. All right, so let's see what else we have across the area. So we've got these two notable quakes today, kind of watching this area. Puerto Rico region, southwestern edge of the Puerto Rico mainland area. Looks like just your typical swarming kicking off here with about 21 earthquakes within the vicinity of Puerto Rico. Also some activity stretching up here around Jamaica. We've seen that yesterday coming in, a 4.6. Doesn't look like they've seen anything else overnight. A glance here at the EMSC model shows most of that movement up here on the northern section of the Caribbean plate from yesterday. We did see a couple threes here around the, looks like the Costa Rica and the Nicaragua area earlier this morning. But for the most part, things tapering off here along the Middle America Trench. Down into the South America region, a couple older earthquakes here in the Colombia area and just offshore of Peru. These two quakes right here. Nothing else shown up here on the USGS map, but that's the 4.5 and above threshold. This activity on the globe is going to be more magnitudes there from the EMSC, which includes the smaller events. Quite a few threes clustered here into the Peru-Chile Trench today, it looks like, but no large-scale movement taking place down there currently. Let's see what else we got into the North American continent. A little bit of activity there in Mexico from yesterday, I believe, at 4.1 yesterday afternoon. A look at the map here today, though, across the across the states. Well, let's see what we got. Looks like a little swarm outside of Anaheim, southwest of Corona. Got 4 earthquakes here. Very small microquake swarm, and very small on the magnitudes. A little bit of activity off the coast here of Long Beach. Let's see, what do we got here? 0.8 off the Elsinore Fault. A little separate swarm here south of Salton City. I'm not seeing anything major going on here across the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. That would indicate maybe Some hazard going on. There was a 1.5. It looks like about 3 o'clock in the morning, just at the extreme southern tip here of the San Andreas Fault. No major swarm going on. There was only one earthquake, but we'll definitely watch that because that is within the triggering zone, so to speak. That could trigger the big one if we get enough activity within that region. But for now, just a little small microquake activity. Let's see, Nevada, 3.3, 30 kilometers southeast of Mina, outside of the Tonopah region. It's been a little while since we've seen earthquake activity here across the Candelaria Hills. Back in 2021, I think, they had a 6-pointer out here. And sometimes these swarms come and go, but it looks like just one 3-pointer for now. We'll see if we get any further activity ramping up in that region of Nevada. Central California and the Bay Area, all fairly quiet for now. Clear Lake Volcanic Field up here, a little spotty activity. Only 19 earthquakes, though, around the vicinity of the hydrothermal plants there in Northern California. One earthquake out here in the Blanco Fracture Zone. Still kind of watching that. Remember, I've been mentioning it the past few videos here about the elevated uptick in tremor. That's obviously going to add further stress offshore. And we've been seeing that from a couple different areas. We had that 6-pointer up north. Let me bring back the let's bring back last 7 days here. Elevated tremor has been happening here for about a week now. Let me bring up a different map here as well with the tremor. This is from yesterday. Notice 534 epicenters of tremor. And a lot of people still asking, what is it? What's tremor? I don't get it. Well, tremor activity is a slow vibrational frequency, kind of like a slow rub, if you will, between the two plates down dip of the subduction zone. 35, 45 kilometers into the Cascadia subduction zone, which starts, by the way, offshore. Offshore right here, this plate boundary. That's where the Cascadia subduction zone starts. That's where the Juan de Fuca plate subducts. It's a dipping fault here. And further east you go here on the map, so to speak, to the right, the deeper the subduction zone goes. And then, of course, you get the volcanic arc here, the Cascades, Sierra Nevada mountains from that subduction. But tremor activity is just basically a slow slip release type of, I don't like calling it an earthquake because it's really not an earthquake. It's a sudden release of pressure that's been built up. This here is just more of a, it's hard to explain. I could probably draw it on the map a little bit better than I can explaining it, but basically this Juan de Fuca plate slowly being subducted underneath the North American plate area, and it picks up certain equipment, very sensitive equipment, picks up that vibrational frequency between the two plates. So tremor is just the count of measurements that is being picked up by the equipment. And yesterday, 534. Over the past week, we've had, let's go since about April 1st. Looks like it started on the 4th or 5th. And so probably more than a week. Looks like it's been going on for about 10 days now. So we got 4,401 epicenters of tremor. Notice that has been mostly confined here to the, close to the northern end of the Cascadia subduction zone, which is northern Seattle, southern end of the Vancouver Island range, and also a little bit of activity here into the Oregon region. Now, got to remember here, when this plate is being subducted slowly and getting that vibrational frequency, I believe that firmly adds a strain upstream, further strain, right? It's already been building here for 323 years. Last major rupture, 9.0, along the Cascadia back in 1700. So when you get this tremor activity, it adds further strain, but also it affects the plates or the fault systems offshore. And there's a couple different fault systems, goodness, that run to the west here of the Cascadia subduction zone. You got the plate boundary here between the Pacific and the Juan de Fuca plate here to the south. or if you want to technically be specific, this is the Gorda Plate, Juan de Fuca Plate, and the small Explorer Plate up north here. 3 separate microplates being subducted here to the east. So we get a little bit of activity kicking up here just due west of where all that tremor is occurring. That's obviously a sign of the strain that's been building up here. We did see that 6-pointer on the 13th, right in the middle of the tremor event. Also, we did have a 4.2 just a day later, still within the elevated tremor event. And also, we're noticing some activity down here in the Blanco fracture zone. So we'll probably see this continue here as long as we're into the tremor, elevated tremor activity currently taking place. And not to mention, there's always that possibility of this large-scale tremor event triggering a megaquake here on the Cascadia. I firmly believe that I heard an alarm going off. I believe that when we see that megaquake, the next megaquake out here, it will be during a large-scale tremor event. And they come and go. Looking at the all data here, shows elevated tremor events here since about 2010. The spikes on the graph here indicate the highest level of tremor in a time period. And these intervals have been getting much closer together since about, let's see here, I would say roughly within the last 3 years or so. It seems like activity, the intervals between these quiet zones, see these little quiet zone gaps where less tremor is, it seems like they're getting a little bit closer together. Except for, man, we had very little tremor between about October last year till right now. But still, compared to events past, the tremor is increasing. The tremor is getting closer together between these little quiet periods. So, and it doesn't really go back further than that. Tremor is roughly a new type of measurement there. But I hope one day that we can use this type of graph and this studying to predict the next megaquake out here on the Cascadia. So it's all kind of new. We don't know 100% if when the Cascadia is going to pop here, but it's a matter of time. So we'll keep an eye on this tremor, and with this activity kicking up here, there's always that possibility of seeing a megaquake out here. But for now, I think we need to watch for some further movement offshore. Blanco fracture zone, probably could see some down here, potentially in Northern California with this elevated tremor, because there is a little bit of activity kicking up here in the southern end of the Cascadia as well. That's tremor. All right, let's see what we got here across Washington west of Mount St. Helens, a 1.3. Nothing big going on there, 14 kilometers deep. And the PNSN.org network has a pretty cool array of seismographs and all sorts of stuff. Spectrograms, there's a bunch of stuff you can use up here on their data products. But for the most part, I keep it simple and just look at these seismograph stations here when I'm suspect of any activity. And there's not a whole lot out here. I know the USGS doesn't report a lot of the earthquake activity on the weekends. That's why I tend to go to the live seismographs here, or at least the recorded seismographs, and see for myself. This is the Mount St. Helens area. Give it a second to load. They are just a little slow. There we go. I know there's quite a bit of snow up there on Mount St. Helens. There was a reading here a couple days ago that made a news article about a little avalanche up there, and the seismograph station picked it up. I'm not for sure what day that was, but sometimes avalanches will show up, ice quakes, snow quakes, any kind of movement these seismograph stations will pick up. And it looks like there's a little bit of seismic activity. There's one spike here, it looks like maybe 4 or 5 hours ago, a very small earthquake, and I'm wondering if that's the one that we've seen here. Yes, it is, by the way, 1.3, just to the west here of Mount St. Helens. So it will pick it up, and it looks like they're reporting it today, so kind of cool. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up here, so I just want to be sure I go to the source as well to check out the raw verified data, and this will give an overlay of the seismographs there at Yellowstone. Looks like we got a little swarm going on here, folks. I haven't even checked this today, but down here along the Grant Village center of the Yellowstone caldera, which is in this black line, by the way. Lake Yellowstone over here, Wyoming. Pretty large super volcano caldera. We got, well, a little swarm kicking off here. Kind of noticed that yesterday with that odd little event. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about, the odd event. Previous day, there was some type of signature right here. See that? It looks like it was centered right around the same area where we're seeing the swarm. I'm thinking that it's just a whole bunch of earthquake activity in a short amount of time. It kind of looks like magma movement or intrusion, so to speak, but I don't think it is. I think it's just a whole bunch of earthquake activity that looks like that, because what we've seen following it was a slight earthquake swarm here. This is from yesterday, but if you really look at the data today, you can see that that event has turned into a pretty good swarm of earthquakes, and there's quite a bit. These are all probably below the 2.0 threshold, as most of these are not showing up, broadly across the park, such as a 2.5 and above. We would start to notice that across all the seismograph stations here around the Yellowstone area. So mostly confined here to the Little West Thumb, Grant Village, and it looks like the borehole B944 station. Also down here, the Pitchstone Plateau area is picking that up. But it looks as though the epicenter is right around the Grant Village area. And that's quite a bit of activity. We'll see what the USGS puts out tomorrow morning, because they have to go through and look at all the data that came in, pinpoint exactly where this activity is taking place, how far below the surface, the correct magnitude, more so than what the computer can do. And that's why we're not seeing anything showing up here across Yellowstone today, because, well, there's nobody there to review it. But I can guarantee you there's probably a good 100 earthquakes or so listed on this graph. There's a lot. I'm not going to go through and count every single one of these, but there's probably a good 100 or so small quakes there at Yellowstone National Park over the last 24 hours. Continue to watch that. All right, Texas area got, all this activity here from yesterday, so nothing really going on here across the rest of the country. The Alaska area, somewhat calmer today. Only a handful of smaller quakes across the region. I think our main brunt of the activity right now we need to watch is along the Kamchatka Trench and the Japan area. Latest earthquake shows a 4.3 coming in, 36 kilometers deep, but more interested in this activity that's been taking place here along the Kamchatka Trench recently with, pretty good handful of earthquakes. Let me see here. Over the last week here, this is going to give us about 7 earthquakes here along the Kamchatka Trench. All of these deep. The deepest one here into the Sea of Osk area, 4.2 at 500 kilometers deep. And notice this deeper activity all along the Kamchatka Trench. All these are deep movement quakes here with little to none shallower earthquake movement. So this area should be pretty ripe here for a large-scale event. This subduction zone is it's got a high accumulated slip rate here. This is just average 83 mm per year. It's been a while since we've seen a larger scale event here. Notice that these arrows are pointing towards the general plate movement, and this area is backed up by 3 large plates. So you got the Pacific plate here moving to the northwest. This is a subduction zone right here where these 2 arrows are pointing. Japan right here. There's a couple other smaller plates in here as well, but this is just a general description of the general plate of the main plate movement. There's always going to be different faults moving in maybe not the same that's pointed up here on the map, but this is a general plate movement map And you got the Pacific plate, the North American plate up here, the Eurasia plate, all putting a squeeze out here, so to speak, reinforcing this area with quite a bit of strain. Deeper movement quakes downstream. Just a matter of time before we see a larger scale event upstream where all the stress is building. So watch this area pretty closely here, folks, today. It's been active over the past few days in the deeper levels. Let's see what else we got. A little bit of movement this morning into the East China Sea, close to the East China Sea area on the plate boundary here to the northwest. Very shallow earthquake activity, 4.6, 10 kilometers deep there into the Japan region. Activity across the Indonesia area still looks fairly active. Let me see what we got here on the Earthquake 3D globe. Quite a bit. It kind of looks like there's a couple more earthquakes here that USGS is not reporting. There's a 3.5 in that area as well. And a pretty good handful of earthquakes across the Philippines and Indonesia, Java Trench region. Definitely much broader today. For the past, it seems like for the past couple days, most of the activity been confined here into okay. Woo. All right, so yeah, most of the activity here definitely been confined here to the south, but now we're getting that broader push up north, so we'll watch that Kamchatka Trench area. Let's see, Fiji southward here looks like a pretty good cluster of earthquakes. Nothing much showing up here on the USGS map, but we do know that there's activity down into the New Zealand area. Kind of looks like a little bit of deeper movement quakes. Let's check out the GeoNet servers real quick, and then we'll get to space weather. Deleted event there, 2.6 got deleted. There's that 3.9, kind of deep there into the Kamchatka Trench, 324 kilometers deep. It's going to be this earthquake right here, well north of the North Island region. 4.4 in that same area, fairly deep as well. Almost an hour ago. Another deeper movement quake, 4.2, into that same region, the Kamchatka Trench. So definitely looks like things kicking up there along that area of the Kamchatka Trench today. Watch New Zealand area. Let me check out the earthquake drums. Yeah, hard to say if any of that earthquake activity is showing up here. Looks like a little bit is, but not the most recent activity there. So that's a ways up there and pretty deep away from these seismograph stations. So some of those fours may not even show up across these regions of New Zealand. But for the most part, specifically speaking, New Zealand, there's not a whole lot of activity. South Island looks awfully quiet. Really nothing kicking up out there at all. But either way, I think we'll continue to watch this area, considering the deeper movement quakes taking place north there onto the Kamchatka Trench. All right, let's see what else we have here across the region. Don't want to skip on Hawaii. See what we got. Kilauea Volcano kicking up a little bit as well. Most of these quakes, some of it's getting a couple kilometers below the surface here. I don't think we've seen any further updates from the USGS with regards to the earthquake swarm going on there. Last update was put out the 11th, so we'll wait for their weekly update. No major changes here across the volcanoes there on the Big Island, and looks like activity over the past couple days here in Alaska about the same. A little bit of activity across the Pahala area as well. Boy, this globe looks awfully active here today. I'm just wondering if that's man, it looks more active today than normal. Very odd. Let's see here. That was a 4.3. I'm thinking here. Hold on a second. Kind of want to fix that a little bit. I think there we go. The 5.5 was the older movement quake there, so not quite at the 24-hour map. I'd kind of like to keep the globe here at 24 hours, and that way it's not too cluttered. But either way, still definitely active. All right, let's see. Turkey area and across the Mediterranean. Things fairly active as well. 2s, 3s, some 1s out here. There's that 4.4 north of the Iceland area from last night. All right, well, we'll kind of keep an eye on things here today, folks. Very active movement, deeper quakes here across Indonesia as well. Western Pacific very heightened, so we'll keep an eye on that today. And just be prepared, stay safe out there. Let's see what else we have. Well, let's get into space weather here real quick, and then I got a busy day. Going to be doing the member drawing here shortly as well. Got to get everyone's name into the fishbowl. And of course, if you're not a member yet and you want to be in that drawing held today, then jump on in. I did get a suggestion that maybe instead of going live and doing the drawing just to announce a winner on a banner in the live stream or something, but I don't know. I think the outcome when we're doing the member drawing, it seems like it's a pretty positive experience when we're doing it live, and then not just a trust issue. I'm sure most of my viewers trust me, hopefully. But I prefer to do the drawings live. I think it's kind of fun to get on camera and pick a name out of the fishbowl. So we're gonna keep it live. But somebody mentioned here, just pick a winner and then forget the live and then just announce the name on air. I don't know. I just I don't know if I like that idea. I kind of like the the old-fashioned type of drawing where everyone's right there, everyone's watching me pick a name, and that's who wins. So I kind of like it like that. That's what we're going to keep it as. So, all right, goodness, look at this popping off the sun. Beautiful feature on the northeastern section of the sun. This is a very active sunspot with some huge solar flare activity going on here on that far side of the sun. Let me see what we got. Which region is that? Can't really see it, but it's over there. Looks like a very active regional sunspot. This is the current visible disk here, Earth-facing side, and the magnetic polarities on the colors here. Looks like we lost a little bit of strength here from this sunspot. It doesn't look quite as complex or unstable as it was last night. These things can pop up out of the blue, and sometimes they can disintegrate as well pretty rapidly. This sunspot here on the southwestern limb still looks fairly complex, but it is shifting away from the Earth. Not a whole lot here on the northern hemisphere of the sun. Most of the active regions here on the south part, and even then, some of these look like they may be. This sunspot right here looks still fairly active. It just looks a little bit different today compared to yesterday, but we'll continue to watch this area, I think, mostly for some further flaring. Kind of see this area popping up slightly on the UV filter, but nothing like this area up here. Some type of large flaring coming in currently right now. Too bad that wasn't center disk pointed right at Earth. That far side sunspots creating actually a little radio blackout here on Earth on the sunlit side, centered over the just off the Central America area. Looks like it's peaking up into the almost the M flare category, but maybe a little bit stronger if this was a little bit more directed at Earth. I believe this would be a little bit more elevated, but for now it looks like a C 9.0 coming in from that mentioned sunspot on the northeastern limb. Either way, beautiful feature. I love the prominences and the solar flare activity as it Makes it very photogenic. All right, let's see what we got. So we got 99% chance for a C flare, M flare 50% chance, X flare at 10%, proton event elevated there around 5%, and the SFI rising slightly to 176 due to all the solar sunspot activity, the energy out here, so to speak, on the sun currently. The aurora forecast, well, there really isn't any. Not a whole lot of potential right now. Unless we get a surprise CME or some type of eruption there off the sun, things are going to remain very minimal for the foreseeable future with regards to the auroras. All right, severe weather threat today, not a whole lot. Most of the weather has shifted from the southern plains yesterday in Arkansas area and Missouri to the East Coast, with only a very slight chance there. Marginal risk, not even really any tornado risk, except for down in Florida, it looks like 2%. Most of today's event is only going to be, looks like wind. That's about it, which is good news. But aside from that, doesn't look like there's any major events coming up here, at least in the next couple days. Quick glance here at the weather models here for the West Coast, the western United States. Got a little clipper of a storm up here into the Pacific Northwest, bringing some rain and snow. But I'm looking here at California. Looks like maybe our next system coming in here will be Monday into Tuesday. Not a strong system whatsoever. Most of the rain will be along the coast and snow in the mountains, with a rain shadow effect here across the Sacramento Valley. But it does look colder, a little bit colder system, a little colder air coming down here. And after that, well, looks like for the most part it remains fairly dry. Got a low pressure system spinning off the coast here towards the first week of May. Not for sure how that's going to play a part, though. It's a ways out, far as far as assuming if this is going to bring some wetter weather here into the West Coast. Right now, it's just, like I said, too far out to be dependable. Either way, I'm not seeing any major hot spells, any heat spells out here for the West Coast. It's just kind of a nice spring. Today is supposed to be 76 degrees here where I live, just outside of Chico. And a little bit cooler tomorrow, back into the 60s, but I'm taking advantage of this beautiful weather to get some yard work done, and I may go outside here in a little bit and do that as well. But I've got a lot of schoolwork I got to do, so I better stick to the schoolwork, and then I'll get some yard work done, right? Either way, hey, Missy Mimi's does appreciate all the comments that you guys left on the video last night. There was quite a few, and we appreciate those. Missy Mimi's is feeling better today. Definitely feeling better. Not for sure what she's got. Struggling with a cold or something. Pretty bad one. She had an elevated fever as well. So kind of got sidetracked on the member drawing yesterday. Just a busy weekend for us. But today, we'll get it done. I'll be out there. I don't know if Missy Mimi's is going to jump in there or not. Probably not. So it will just be me. And we'll pick out a lucky winner for today's drawing. Member only. And giving away $50 Visa MasterCard gift card. Whatever type of gift card you want. Or if you want a t-shirt from the Earthmaster store. I think I'll wear mine during the interview tonight. Or not interview, but the drawing here in a little bit. Show you guys some of the merchandise. Or if you want like a... we got a 7-piece geology mining kit here. It comes with some picks and a pick hammer and some rock stuff. You know, if you're into geology, that's kind of neat to have. Comes in a pretty cool carrying case as well. And that's completely up to you. But we give you guys 3 options here on what you want to, what you'd like to receive. For now, have a good day, folks. That was well, it's a little lengthy update, but there's a lot going on out here, folks, with the tremor along the Cascadia and now deeper movement quakes here across the Western Pacific. This has all been elevated here since that super deep 7-pointer we've seen there in the Java Sea region a day or so ago. A couple areas are lacking earthquake activity, and that's around the India area. And still waiting here for some potential shallower movement here along the Java Trench. That 7-pointer was super deep, and of course that does add further strain, not only upstream, but also in nearby plate boundaries here, which it looks like it's definitely affected areas to the east here along the Western Pacific and adjacent plates. We'll definitely keep this in mind and watch that throughout the day today. Have a good one, folks. We'll catch you guys back here. I got a few things I got to do before the drawing, but it will be coming up here. Let me see. Let me give you guys a time. We're going to do the member drawing here at 2 o'clock my time. So that's going to be 5 o'clock here, the afternoon, Eastern time. 2 o'clock Western time here, Pacific time. We'll do the member drawing. We'll see you back here in a couple hours, folks. Take care.